Hi guys, this is Amanda with This Art Called Life. So today I'm taking on a heavy topic, fear, death, and the law of attraction. Basically, can you attract into your reality that which you fear or death itself even? And the short answer to that is yes, which I'm going to dive into because there is a lot of hope out there, and I have a video on the law of attraction that I just posted, so go back to that if you want to dive in a little bit more to how all of this works. But in short, we are all vibrating at energetic frequencies based on our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So just to quickly demonstrate, the other video gets into it a little bit more. So go back to that if you want clarification. And on the positive note, the positive spin. But this is a topic that has come up in numerous conversations. So I do really feel very strongly that it's an important conversation to have. It's something that's very important to address, especially as I had cancer and I am involved in the cancer community. I'm tapped in and I see these conversations happen quite regularly, and or I can see it from my perspective that many people are attracting into their reality the very thing that they fear the most. And it's quite heartbreaking, really, but most people have no idea. And that's what I think needs to be addressed very head on, very directly. So as heavy as this topic is, it is very, very important because it can literally not just change lives, but potentially save lives. Once we have this awareness, that's when we can change the way that we perceive and approach reality. So just a quick demonstration or example rather. Think about a time when you thought of somebody and they called you or they texted, as many people do now these days. Or, as soon as you had a thought of that person and saying, oh, I should message them, they message you. So that is an energetic connection. That is not a coincidence. It is a energetic frequency of attachment that is like, it's basically like the universe is transmitting that frequency between you two. So it's something called string theory in quantum physics. So everything is connected. We are all energy. Just a quick example, positive example of me having that experience recently. I was just thinking, oh, I should really message that person. And as I walked into a cafe, that person was walking in at the exact same time as I was, and I hadn't spoken to them in several days. And I was like, oh, I should message them. They just showed up into my reality immediately. So this is real. It happens. And the more you are attuned to these frequencies and open to these synchronicities, open to this reality, the more and more and more it begins to happen. It happens for me quite frequently at this point. So with that all said, what we focus on, we attract, and what we're an energetic match for, we attract. Not just about the thoughts, which I got into in the other video, but if we're focused on the negative constantly, if we are focused on what we don't want to happen, the unfortunate reality is that we are still going to attract that thing into our reality, even if we're terrified of it. And that, yes, sadly includes death. So if we are focused on having an argument with that person, we are actually putting out that energy that there's going to be friction with that person. They're going to pick up on it and they're going to give it back to us. So yes, there's more likelihood of having an argument with that person. If you are scared of having a tragic accident or just an accident of any kind, the odds are more likely that that accident will actually happen because you're putting that energy, that you're putting that focus, you're putting that thought out into the universe. So you will then attract that to you the more you focus on it. If you don't give any energy to that thought, it's less likely to happen. But the more energy you give to these thoughts, the more likely it is to happen. And it goes both ways, positive and negative. So if we're conscious of what we are creating and putting positive energy and intention into creating something beautiful or abundant or full of life and vitality, if we are putting energy into healing, our thoughts are focused on us being already healed, then we're going to create that. However, on the flip side, if we are putting more of our energy and more of our focus onto being sick, being ill, and the threat of death hanging over us, then sadly, the unfortunate reality is that is much more likely to be our reality, to be our truth. So we must be really, really careful and really, really deliberate about where we put our focus, where we put our attention, where we put our energy. Where your attention goes, your energy flows, if you've ever heard that. And the more energy we project in a certain direction, the more likely that reality is to happen. So here's an example, kind of extreme example, but Tupac and Biggie, the hip hop, famous hip hop guys from like the 90s, or how old am I? I don't know. Whenever they were famous, most people know them, right? So they were constantly rapping about naming their albums after these ideas of death and being shot and killed and things like this. And that's what happened to both of them. And it's really tragic. It's really sad, but they were putting so much energy into that reality that they did, unfortunately, tragically create that reality for themselves. And we could go into, there's like nuances to everything, of course, but that is one example. And to bring it back to the cancer community example, unfortunately, it's really, really common for doctors to give patients X amount of time to live. To me, it's quite criminal, and I'm not necessarily blaming the doctors, because this is what they're told to do, give people the statistics, and it's the responsible thing to do. And many doctors are not fully conscious of or aware of this whole energetic creation of reality. But when a doctor, quote unquote, gives somebody 6 months to live, the sad truth is many, many people will actually die within that 6 months, if not like to the day of 6 months, because they believe that that is their reality. They believe that that's the only possibility. So because, doctors are experts in this, they know what happens to all cancer patients. They have the statistics, the statistics bear it out. There's some kernel of truth to all of it, right? So yeah, I understand why somebody would believe it. However, it's the people who choose not to believe it, who choose not to be the statistic, that are the ones that outlive, that survive, that have a different experience of reality, because they don't choose to believe that. They don't choose to put their energy into that. They also don't choose necessarily to put their energy into being ill. They put their energy into healing no matter what, healing in spite of. So if you want to shift your reality, and if you want to change your potential outcome, you can choose not to be the statistic. You can choose not to buy into that thought. You can choose something different. We have the ability, the amazing ability, to choose our thoughts at every moment of every day. And most of us forget. We're not conscious of where our thoughts are. And, I'm not saying I'm conscious of my thoughts day in, day out either. No, this has been an ongoing process for me, and it's been a journey getting where I am, having had cancer and being in the depths of all sorts of things. I had my life kind of fall out from under me in many different ways. I've kind of faced those depths, like on my knees, crying, sobbing, like, what gives? So, I've had to kind of pick myself up, but I always chose to believe that there was something better. I always chose to believe that there was another possibility for myself. And so that's what we have to do, is we have to choose what possibility we are putting our energy into, we are putting our faith into. So if we are putting our energy into the negative, it's much more likely for it to happen. If we are putting our energy into the positive, that is much more likely to happen. So we have to be really deliberate and really intentional about where we're putting our energy. If we focus on death, Unfortunately, that is more likely to happen if we focus on illness, if we focus on being a victim, if we focus on pain and suffering and all of that negative stuff. That is more likely to happen and keep us in a box, that self-created box of torture. And I say that, but that's really what it winds up being. So I am sending so much love to everybody as I say all this, because this is a lot to take in. And that's is also why I, offer my support and I offer my programs and courses to help people work through this, to navigate the shifting of beliefs, to navigate the dark night of the soul. This is my mission. This is my job. This is my purpose. And it's just not that easy to do on your own, and I never did it on my own myself. I tried. It never really worked that way. I've had a lot of support along the way myself. So I am sending you lots and lots of love. The first step is awareness. So just be aware of, where are your thoughts? Where are you putting your energy into? If you believe that, the doctor gave you 6 months, and that's 6 months from now, the odds, and you really believe that, the odds are not in your favor. If the doctor gives you a week, then the odds are not in your favor. I actually have a positive example of this. I have a friend who was diagnosed stage 4 cervical cancer. She turned down treatment with 1 week to live. They quote unquote gave her a 1-week death sentence, is really what it was. She chose not to believe that reality. She knew there was another possibility to heal herself. She turned down the treatment, turned down the conventional treatment. I do believe she had surgery of some kind, but they told her she also 100% needed chemotherapy and potentially also radiation in order to survive. She chose not to buy into that reality. And guess what? Years later, 6-7 years later, she is vibrant and healthy and thriving right now. Had she fallen into the fear, she wouldn't be here anymore. The doctors gave her 1 week. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of insane, honestly. And she's here. She's here. There are many, many stories like that. And she did the work. It wasn't an overnight, miraculous healing, although those do exist. They are possible. We call them miraculous healings, but it's an energetic shift in the body. It's coming back to a frequency of love. So if we send ourselves love rather than fear, we're much more able to, if we fall in love with our life, we're much more able to create a beautiful reality for ourselves, to heal our bodies. There is actually also a study of cancer survivors, because I know the studies are out there, where a doctor, tells the patient the statistics, the life expectancy for somebody in their situation. And 74% of patients actually find that the doctor's estimates are accurate, aka life expectancy within a year, they die. 75% within a year, the accuracy is within a year. So if you give somebody 5 years, 75% odds they'll go within 4 to 6 year range. That's quite tragic in my opinion, because if we say, hey, this is the statistic, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case though. That completely changes the reality. That completely can shift something. And there are people out there who say no statistics, but and people who choose not to buy into the statistics. That's a whole other conversation. It's like, do you want to know? What should you know? All of that. It's a different conversation. But if we are discussing statistics, then we have to really shift and reframe the way that we actually discuss them, and to do our best to empower and to choose empowering thoughts around that. And also, let's say we really do think that the situation is that dire, and we only have that 2 years. How are you going to choose to live those 2 years? Are you going to choose to live it in pain and suffering and as a victim, or are you going to choose to make the most of every last moment that you have? So these are important conversations to have with yourself, with your loved ones, so on and so forth. And I also want to add in that the accuracy of the life expectancy increased with the patient acknowledging that they were terminally ill, with the patient signing a DNR, do not resuscitate, with the patient engaging in end-of-life discussions. So what that all tells me is that the accuracy of that time frame that the doctor, quote unquote, gives a patient is highly correlated with a patient accepting death as inevitable. So if we choose not to put our energy into that, we can shift that reality. 75%, that is a pretty massive number. So yes, this is a call to all of us, doctors included, to really think about and shift these narratives that we have with each other and within ourselves, within our, our own minds. Yeah. Just a little tidbit in there. So anyway, again, I am sending you so much love. It's always up to us. We can choose, and I'm not saying it's easy, and that's why I am offering my full love and support right now. But we can always choose to change things. So onward and upward in love and light. I'm sending you so much love, guys. We can change our reality. We can change the reality for the whole planet right now. It's so important to really focus, to rise above the fear, and to focus on a beautiful future for all of us. So thank you for tuning in. Subscribe below and connect with me if you have any questions. Love you guys.